The reason I'm using the broken color technique is because it creates a vibration. If you look at a color long enough, you see it. The likeness is really the proportion. Thanks for coming. So since last time, I've been doing a lot of portraits, especially pastel portrait. I've been doing oil and pastel, so I work on both mediums. They kind of complement each other because my idea on colors can be used with really any medium. It could be pastel, could be oil, could be watercolor, acrylic, anything. So like I have a unique way of using colors, and I think it will be really interesting, fun for people to see my process. Everything on my Instagram is a time-lapse video, my process. So it's a public account, so you can just log on and follow me. So to start with, I use a willow charcoal, soft. That's what I prefer to use. It works really well on this pastel paper, this Pastelmat. It's a French paper. It's not a sandpaper, but it's not exactly a paper either. There's a special coating. It's like a magic. So you can like put so many layers of pastel in it. So let me just get this started, and then I will talk to you at the break. You can look at me. Yeah, look at me. Maybe turn that way a little bit. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. You look beautiful. And my model, Darlene, here. Thank. Okay. So, standard process. You start with the top, where you want the top of the head to go, and you. I don't want it to do too big because I like her white shirt. I'm gonna do the chin here, and she has a slight tilt, and that's a natural tilt. I got to know her last time I visited her, so she has this very playful personality I really like. So I want her head to tilt a little bit. So maybe, that's good enough. Yeah. So I just want to get the right movement here. Very, very rough, just the proportion. And then I want to measure. Usually I do the eyebrow. That's where I start. The eyebrow is about a little over 1/3 of the way down. So you do it here. And she's the 3/4 way. That's the best angle for portrait painting. So I have the nose here. The way I set up the light hits the nose. That's where the terminator is for the light, the line between the light and the shadow. That's an important marker that we need to do in the beginning. And between the eyebrow and the nose, it's a little longer. She has a little bit longer nose. So it stops here. I know if you have a hard time seeing, I will record this. So her mouth is here. So it's very standard. I don't want to waste too much time. I just want to make it quick. So basically the eye is in a socket. So it's not really like flat. So we want to indicate where the eye goes. And she has big, beautiful eyes. We don't want to get into details here, just want to mark the proportion. And her hair drips down here. She has a nice chin. And this is the terminator where the shadow meets the light. This light I set up is called the Rembrandt light. This is what Rembrandt used. Basically, you have a triangle on the left side where the shadow is. So that's called a Rembrandt light. And I want to define her cheekbones, which is, you want to do left and right. So the right side is in the light, but still it's good to define it. And then I go for the ear. The ear is in a line with the eyebrow, so you kind of measure it over here. And the neck is important because that's where the head is sitting on. You want to make sure the chin is clear. The light coming from the right, so the shadow of the chin will go this way. And then this is the edge of the neck. And she has a little bit of a tilt on her shoulder as well, if you notice. She's kind of sitting in this angle.
Like my stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of how she usually sits, which is really good to notice. That's kind of her general pose. It's easier with just a head because it's faster. Let me turn that.
This way,
Yeah.
you.
That way, yeah, thank you. I want to get the forehead correctly here. So she has a big forehead. Just want to make sure that we have the proportion right. Her nose is very distinct, so I'm going to focus on her feature more today. So the eye is lined up in this way. We just want to make sure this is lined up. I think her mouth can go up a little bit. Smile a little bit. So I use a little bit of an eraser. This is kind of like a very small eraser. You can do very precise erasing on it. It's more like a drawing tool. I want to make sure I get her nose in the right shape. And this is all in the shadows, so let's just look at the big shape, not the detail. Squint. Just want to define the shadow. So smile. Just want to get the big shape correctly. A little bit above the chin here. The drawing stage is very important for really any medium, because without the drawing correctly, you basically just not getting anything right. It doesn't matter how beautiful the color looks. I'm still just marking the big shape here. The shadow on the neck goes here and with her t-shirt. So I'm just gonna, since I have 10 more minutes, I'm gonna start putting on some pastel here. So I use a Hellman box, and it got smaller over the year because I realized I don't need that many colors, especially for an hour and a half of painting. So this is basically my box. It goes from light to dark and cool to warm. That's really the only logic I have here. It's quite small, so I can remember where the colors are. so I won't spend time looking for what color I want. So I start with the eggplant. Everybody knows about the eggplant from Terry Ludwig, right? So, so we're gonna start with the darkest dark here. So I work from dark to light. So with the charcoal here already done with the proportion, I'm gonna go in and define the dark. So I see if you squint your eyes, the darkest part of her face, the eyes, but I wouldn't be that detailed on the eyes, just to indicate how dark the eye goes. And then underneath the nose here, this needs to be pushed in. Her shadow starts here. This is very dark underneath her chin, so we want to define that. She has this very distinct shape nose here, so I'm gonna make sure the shadow is there. And there's a bit of a shadow here that actually helps with the end of her, the shape of her forehead. A little bit darker shade here.
Do you always start with the eggplant, or does it depend on the coloring?
I actually always start with the eggplant because I know some people like to start with the second darkest color because they feel safer. Because when you see something so dark on the paper, you get scared, it jumps out. But I have a vision in my head that I can't really share with you. So actually in my head it's already painted. Like before I painted the painting, I know exactly where the color goes. So it's easier just to go from dark to light. Well, I'll show you, like when I go to the lighter part and I kind of switch my strategy a little bit. It's very like a personal approach. So again, the mouth here, I just want to define the corner of the mouth and where the terminator is. Where the chin, the cheek, she has this nice cheek here. It's not scary at all because once you start putting colors in layers, Pastelmat is very good with layers. You can layer as many as you want. So there's nothing really to be worrying about. If it's wrong, just do it again.
And you prefer to start, or to...
The darkest.
I mean on gray, on this dark gray.
Yeah, it saves me a step because the gray is part of the value. Like if you think about this as black and white drawing, so you go from dark to white, right? So gray is really in the middle. It saves me so much time. I don't have to draw the gray, I mean, the skin has a little bit of a cool tone in it. Like, our skin is not pink, like don't think of the skin as pink. There's always like a cool tone in it. And this kind of a nice gray like bring out the skin as well. So it's a bit complicated. I'll explain to you. So yeah, so I'm just using a little bit more time defining her darkest part. Here, her chin. She has a nice pronounced chin here, so make sure it's here. Her jaw here.
Do you always work on Pastelmat?
I was introduced to the Pastelmat recently, actually, by another pastel artist. I forgot her name. She's like, why don't you try this? This works. When I first tried it, I was like, oh, this is so odd. Like the strokes are so clear. Like you cannot erase the strokes. Once it's on, it's on. But then it works with my technique. So I do oil painting. So I would start with a layer, and I would use a dry brush, do a scrumbling technique with a dry brush on top of it. So I kind of just start using Pastelmat as like an oil painting technique. So it started to work really well. Just try it. I would try every surface, So that's my first layer. I usually go in for second layer with a warmer dark color. This is kind of like a dark brown. I think this is also Terry Ludwig. So I will go in, and especially underneath the eyes, the eyebrow, and it's very warm, so you can see right here. Underneath the nostril is very warm. So definitely want to do underneath the chin. You have here a warm shadow. And her cheek. A little bit warm here. So if you squint your eyes and you look at the colors, you can sort of tell like what general color direction it goes, warm or cool. So at this point, I'm just looking at the warm and cool of the colors. So a little bit of the red. I want to go in because I added this accent light on the left side. It's really cool. It kind of gives it a purple tone to it, so I have a little bit of a purple. So the trick about using colors is it has to work at the correct value. If it's the wrong value, it wouldn't work. I know I'm using crazy colors, but it works because it's in the shadow. You see, I see the purple in her shadow here. This is really fun. I know, darling, you can't see, but it's really fun.
In the back of your phone.
Oh, good.
I see some of it. Nice.
So far, I really only use 3 colors.
I see little glimpses of it.
Good. So you're entertained too.
That's exactly why I'm watching that.
So when you're using oil paints,
Yeah.
do you also go from dark to light?
Yeah.
You do.
I mean, the oil paint is standard. You always go from dark to light because you cover on top. Sometimes you even glaze. Like you wait until it dries and you glaze over it,
Okay.
which we have an advantage as pastel artists. We don't need to wait it for it to dry. You know, we can just glaze right on top of it, which I'll show you later after we.
It's 20.
Doing a portrait in an hour and a half is not easy. It's definitely a challenge. But I've been practicing doing a portrait in an hour and a half. Most of the portraits on the wall are done within an hour and a half. So if I concentrate, I can do it very fast. You can take a look at the close-up of those portraits. So I just want to talk a little bit about myself. Yeah, I started using pastel really early age as a teenager. So my parents are both artists. So they taught me impressionist style technique. So I did everything. They were art teachers in college. So I grew up in the campus.
Right.
So I did figure drawing when I was 5. So started painting when I was 10. I told a story last demonstration last year about how I learned how to paint with colors when I was 10. And basically, I was told to paint an apple, a red apple, without using the color red. And I did it. And basically, I used the broken color technique, which I didn't even know what it means when I was 10, but I kind of figured it out. So that's the story. And ever since, I've been using. So it's basically like optical illusion. So I didn't have the color red for the apple. I actually posted a video on my Instagram. You can see it. I did a demonstration of the apple. So I was given brown, green, blue, yellow, orange. I didn't have the primary red in my palette when I was painting the red apple. So when you put a green next to a reddish brown, the green contrasts the brown, make the brown look more red. And so when you step back, you actually see red. So I actually painted the apple red without using the red in that way. So it's basically, I don't blend colors. Like you can see already, I don't blend colors. Even though they're dirty. I don't use my finger much. I use sometimes for like loose edge purpose. So I put colors next to each other in oil as well. So I don't blend them, like, make them smooth, even in portraiture. Because when you look at it from a distance, you can tell the color. You don't have to blend it because people's eyes are very sophisticated. People see colors just by processing. So that's definitely a technique I use a lot. The Impressionists use a lot of technique on the broken colors. You see how they have little strokes on the ocean, like they're all different colors, and when you look from far, it looks blue. Things like that. Monet used a lot of that in the gardens. And also a little bit of Scumbling Technique, which is, basically use a very light touch of a pastel. You just do it really lightly on top. That also blends the color. Like, my pastel gets really dirty, so sometimes I don't know what color I'm using. So I would put it on my paper, and it looks too light. And then I'll just use a darker pastel and just lightly touch up on top of it. I'm not blending.
Sorry.
So I'm just nice music. So I'm just lightly putting another layer on top of it. So that's also kind of like similar to broken color.
Is there a translucent quality to it?
Oh yeah, that's another thing I want to cover when I get into the colors. Is the reason I'm using the broken color technique is because it creates a vibration between the colors. So when you have the brown and the green next to each other, your eyes get excited. Like, it excites people. When you look at it, you feel an emotion. If you just show a mixed color, like a mixed red apple color, exactly the way you see, it's boring. I might as well just look at the apple, look at the photography. But with painting, we have advantage of creating an excitement with colors. Why not? I guess scientifically you can call this the color waves. They are two color waves get together and you create a spike. So that's what broken color does. So leaving the color mark, leaving the stroke on your paper is good. I mean, in my opinion, that's kind of the style I'm going for. It creates more personal emotions. We're all personal, so why not make it more of your own? So that's always what I think. Cool. We can continue with some colors. I have used 3 colors so far. I'm going to continue. I see some green. I'm going to use some green. Dark green, though. So I'm going to go here. This is actually very similar. See, this is not the right color. Let's go a bit more olive. So I want to go another layer of colors here. This is slightly lighter. So I see a little green here. This is going to be lighter later. I just want to put her hair down. It's very pretty. I see a little green here. If you look at a color long enough, you see it. You just stare at the color. Just stare at that shadow on her shirt. Do you see that green?
Yeah.
I see it.
Do you see? Does it? I light that's reflecting off of the blue background, or is
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you have to keep it realistic. You can't just make it blue because of reflection. So here I have a little blue. I just want to, because there is a little bit of the color, just want to define it. You see, my eyes really go everywhere. It doesn't stay. I don't work on one area at the same time. So now I'm seeing a little blue. Okay, I'm adding a little blue to the parts of the skin. Okay. I kind of jump around a little bit, so now I'm going for the highlight. Actually, let me do another layer of the transitional. I'm looking at it as a value, really not as a color right now. So maybe a little bit of the brown that we see. This is really a brighter color.
yeah, it is.
Well, I know it looked like a puzzle, but it makes sense at the end. Give me an hour and a half, I'll make it make sense. So I'm just marking colors. I see those colors, and that's the correct value as well. So let's just make it there, and we can always layer it up. So she has a lot of nice warm colors on the light side of her face. So I use the side of the pastel, almost like a oil painting. You use a square shaped brush. It's the same idea. Those are strokes. Now, before the next break, I want to make sure I cover most of her face. So let's get going. I don't want it to look like a puzzle at the whole time. So I see a little bit yellow here, so I'm just gonna go in and get her forehead. A little bit here. So I try to use the color multiple places, so I don't have to keep going to get color, because that takes a long time. So here are some transitional shadings. They're now the lightest and now the darkest. So, and this is the plane. You need to look at the plane of the forehead. So this plane is a little darker. I'm gonna go in and, oh, there's some light part on the hair too. Let's put that in. Yeah, so that's, mostly covered. I'm gonna go in for the highlight, actually. This is a little darker here. Yeah, let me go in for the highlight. So I see the nose, the top of the nose, that's a logical place. The light is hitting from her left side. So on the forehead, you see the highlight. On the cheek, on the top of her cheek, because that's the plane, that's the surface that's facing the light. And also on the bottom of her nose, you can see that. And also this little thing underneath the nostril is really good to define the change of the plane. I'm just gonna use this for the lips. So this is the highlight of the lip. Yeah, that's basically where her highlight is. I'm gonna put her ear in. I know the ear is a little complicated, but let's just put a big shade here. This is where her ear goes. It's a little like sculpting, but not exactly. So this is the definition of her shadow. I'm gonna get a little warmer color. Yeah, so this is a little warmer yellow, a little darker. I want to put it here. So this is a different plane on the nose. I'm gonna add the blue here. It's a little bit reflection from the background. But just want to make sure it's in the dark, is the correct value. Yeah, this is really fun. Yeah, kind of look like her. Let's see. The chin. I like the reflections in the shadows because it really makes the subject more three-dimensional. See, this is a little scrambling technique. You lightly put on top. I did use a little finger, but I'm not exactly blending. Little highlight here. So the light is shining on the side of the face. That's why everything on this part of the face should be light. So the eye is sitting in this socket here. So you need to make sure it's in there. A little shadow underneath the eyes. Okay. I like to add a little bit more warm color for the cheek because that's where the blood most on the face and looks cheeky too. Looks nice. A little bit more red, I think. Maybe a little bit. So it's a little bit more red. Is it too red? Ah, not too bad. Let's keep that. So I want to make sure the top of the lip is in the shadow, so it's not pink. It's very dark. And a little dark here. Okay, let's make this cheek a little bit more realistic. I use this, this is a metallic color by Sennelier. I bought a few metallic colors. It actually worked really well on the skin. It makes the skin glow, literally. So, and it blends really well too. So, especially for the cheek. So when you go in, it kind of give it a nice glow here.
Does it have glitter in it? Is that why you're calling it metallic?
It has a metallic.
It's actually metallic. It sparkles in it. It's fun. Yeah, just add a little bit. But let me just redefine this.
Oh yeah.
I want to cover it a little bit. So here's where the bone, there's a cheekbone that connects to the ear right here. We need to define that. You know, I think that's too pink. Let's add a little blue or green. A little green. So that's the vibration I'm creating over here. I want to emphasize the cheekbone. So I'm working on making the color around this area more complex, so it catches the attention of the eyes. Okay. I really want to cover this plane of the nose here. So this plane, this part of the nose is not on the light exactly. It's kind of like going in a different angle. That's why it's darker, but it's not too dark. Let's fix that a little bit.
So you're glazing just one color over the green that you already put there?
Yeah, that's basically glazing, and it looks more natural now. And I don't want to make it too crazy, so crazy is good, yeah. So here, this part of the nose is tricky. It's not exactly in the light, but let's just put it here for now. It's basically like the drawing process, the painting process is you just go in and keep refining the planes to make it look like what you see. So I'm just adding more and more planes here to make it make sense. It started like didn't make any sense at all. Now it's starting to make more sense because I'm adding, this is a metallic color, by the way. It's a metallic beige. It's kind of fun. I would try it if you want to get a couple of sticks.
Manufacturer that is?
Sennelier.
Oh, it's an
Sennelier. You can get it anywhere. Yeah. I just got it from the Bleaks. And this metallic color is actually good for glazing. A glaze literally over it. You see, this is a really good shading too. It goes well with everything on her skin. Just want a little bit lighter here. This is a good light color. Okay, the ear. Because the ear is facing the light too, so it should be very, very light here. So there's some highlights here. This is the shape. And her earring is very pretty. So let's put a little bit of highlight here. Her shirt, this is the end of the shadow. Just want to add a little bit of the shirt here.
Is that really white?
No, this is actually aqua.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, blue. Yeah, I don't use white or black. It just doesn't work for me. And a little bit cooler here, where the shadow is. I just want to define the shadow where her head is hitting the shoulder so that we have a dimension here. See, I do blend the edge with my finger because, you know, it's not a hard surface. So you want to make sure it looks like a shadow. It's part of the color. Yeah, something like that. I do like her blue shirt here, so I'm gonna just add a little bit of the blue. And again, like this is the shadow. It should not be a hard edge. So it's very easy for pastel. You can just use your finger. It's so much easier on pastel than, let's say, watercolor.
Do you ever blend with a smudge stick or a brush?
I don't do that often. Yeah, if I do a big piece, I can use my fingers. It's just not big enough. You know, I will use a blending thing. But for this size, I don't need it. I don't do blending that much. See, this might be too light, this color here. So I would just glaze it. Put something on top, it's dark enough. You just fix the value. It's a constant fixing of the value. Is the correct value?
But it's so
Yeah,
light.
it's simple.
You've got the red, kind of coming through. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, and then you have little orange here. You see the neck underneath, like there's a reflection of the, and that's just, you can use your finger. Like, you know, it's the correct value again. It's the correct shape. So yeah, that's basically an impression of her. If I finish it right now. Yeah, I want to elevate.
20 minutes. It's like get 2 or 3 more.
Okay, I'll take the 2-3 minutes. I want to just do the eye quickly. She's gonna look at me now. The white of her eye is definitely not white. It's actually a dark gray. Because it's in the shadow. And there's a little reflection here. That really, I like how she's looking at me because because it's kind of like really playful. I've been playing with the eye movement in portraiture lately. It's very interesting because I can have a very stiff looking model, not her obviously, straight on look at me, and I would just change the eyeball movement. I'll change the eye to the side. All of a sudden, the model look alive. I mean, this is something anybody can do. So I do like it. I have a little pastel pencil. I just want to define her pupil here. It's a bit of a brown. I see actually a really beautiful brown here. So something lighter, a beautiful warm brown, not too light. Very pretty. Blue on the. Her eyes really sparkle. Like she has beautiful eyes. Purple. I mean, if you look at the eyes, they're like glass balls, and you see so many reflections on this, and it's so beautiful, like crystal balls. Yeah. So this is a dark gray.
Okay, it's 20 minutes.
Cool. Let's take a break.
It's amazing how you captured a likeness so quickly. Can you tell us a little bit, give us guidance on that, or is it just endless experience?
Actually, with her face, I had to study her face a little bit. Her face is not like easy to do. Actually, I've done a lot more faces like those models. Most of them are professional models, and for example, the man at the end, and he's bald head and he's like his nose really sticks out. That's really easy to capture. I think like anybody can capture that likeness. I think the likeness is really the proportion, like how long your nose is, how tall your nose is, how big your eyes are, like the proportion of the eyes, like are they long, are they round, how big the forehead is. It's really in the first stage, the first 20 minutes I did with the charcoal drawing, and that's when you capture the likeness. After that, you're pretty much out of luck. if your drawing is wrong, it doesn't matter how many colors you put on there, it's just wrong. I would just start over again because you obviously didn't catch the feeling of the face in the beginning. I think likeness is also about the personality. So I don't paint people I don't know. I just can't. Not interested. Yeah, so I had to get to know Darlene in order to paint her. The portraits I do in Art Students League, I go to Art Students League almost every day to do live model painting because it's near where I live. It's on 57th Street. So they have open sketch every day from 5 to 6 or 6:30. So the models there I have done multiple times. I know their face from inside out. So that's why I can capture their faces really easily. So the first time, if the model's face is not so defined, it's very hard. I understand it's very hard. Also commissions, I talked to Kathleen earlier. I was like, I hate commissions because like when they ask you to make them look skinnier or younger, and I just can't capture the likeness. But I think my natural reaction to people's faces to make them as look good as possible because I like people. I like having conversation with people. I like to get to know them, the personality. If the person is playful, the person is pleasant, or the person is just really nice and kind person, I want to bring out that personality, which is really hard to explain. It's natural to me. Like painting is like a first language to me. Like it's hard for me to explain how I do it, but I have to feel it before I can do it. So I see the finished painting before I paint it. I can see in my head. I think that's fun. You can like play games with yourself. You you don't have to paint. You can just look at people, be like, okay, how do I paint this person? Oh, this is how I do it. I think I did a lot of that growing up as a child. I had really good imagination. So I would just imagine how I want to paint somebody. And I'll just imagine the colors. Like I look at the white wall, I see painting it. I literally see painting it. Like I'm not like even lying. I do see it. That could be because it's next to blue, but you know, so it's just, I think just like practice with your eyes. It's not using your hands. I think it's about how you look at things. The
So
likeness.
usually, when you paint someone or draw someone, do you have this type of setup for lighting?
Yeah, this is what I usually use for lighting. This is this lighting is set at 5500 and 100% brightness. So this is almost like a standard sunlight.
Okay.
5000 is the standard sunlight.
Okay.
So I like to make sure that the light hitting my painting is the correct lighting. Because you paint under a yellow light, your painting is going to look very yellow at the end.
Right.
Or very blue, depends on how you look at it. Yeah, so I usually do set up my phone here for time-lapse video. So when I paint, I always record. I record every painting I do. So they're all on Instagram. If you want to get on Instagram, you can see all my process. Yeah.
You have that big light. Is this the light over here? Right?
This is something fun I'm playing with. I don't like, Kathleen, you saw my painting in the International Pastel Convention. I did a painting of a man. We were in a bar, so there was this blue light hitting her face. It looks so beautiful, and so I'm just trying to like play with the lighting here as well. I think I said I like the reflection on the shadow because that makes the thing more three-dimensional. Because the reflection indicates there's another plane on the back of the head. It's not a hard edge. There's no edge. There's no line on the face. There's like so many planes. So I want to indicate there's another plane on the side of her face so that I can make her head look three-dimensional. So it's just a playful thing I'm doing. You don't have to. Because I use crazy colors anyway.
So that's a blue light.
That's a blue light.
So you see it out?
Yeah. So I was, when I'm like almost there, I'm gonna add a little blue light here just for fun.
Right.
It's just for fun, really. Yeah. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Yeah.
Do you ever use a side stick?
Yeah, I do. When I'm doing like more like a full figure drawing, I do that because the proportion you have to measure from the neck to the legs. Like proportion is very important. I'm actually measuring, but I'm not doing this because I'm actually measuring just by looking at it. Being a graphic designer for all these years, my eyes are very good at measuring exactly how many inches things are. So I don't need a ruler for things, but in my head, I'm doing exactly this. So the measurement at 1/3 of the way down to the eyebrow, those are all measured in my head. So I think for people who are not used to it, should do this. Definitely do this measurement. Yeah, and also the squinting part. Everybody's talking about squinting is so important. I do squint, but not as often because my eyes are moving around her face so much. I'm basically dizzy. So I don't need to squint sometimes because I see the whole face. So that's another thing like I do. And another thing like I mentioned, like I do the face like a puzzle. I put color marks on her face. Doesn't make any sense. But it only makes sense in my head. That's another thing. There's a personal approach, but it works. So if you want to try it, it does work. Cool. Should we continue? What time is it?
It's 2:32.
Oh, good. Okay, we have time. Good. So I recently got some Gerald pastel, and they're really nice and thin and soft too. So this is good for the finishing touch for like highlights on the nose, things like that.
So you use lots of different manufacturers.
Yeah, I listed a bunch of the pastel I use on the sheet. So recently, I got a box of the 60 portrait color from Terry Ludwig recently. That's a really good box. I recommend it. It has a lot of nice skin tone in it. It's really good.
Is it softer the better?
For me, it's better, but for some people, they like hard. I also have like hard pastel. I have just the regular new pastel. Yeah, so I have a whole 96 colors of those. Yeah, so let's continue. I want to work on her eyes a little bit. Yeah, perfect.
So I wasn't here in the beginning. Is that sanded paper?
This is Pastelmat. Pastelmat is a French paper, coated paper. It's not sanded paper, but it's similar to a sanded paper. It takes many, many layers. What I like about it is not only it takes a lot of layers, it takes different hardness of the pastel. It takes soft pastel, hard pastel. I can put new pastel on top of this, it will take it. Other paper won't take it. This is the only one I know that takes it.
What does it happen on the other paper?
Is the hard pastel cannot go on top of the soft pastel as well. It just doesn't take it, doesn't
flake off?
absorb. Doesn't.
Does it flake off or?
Yeah, it won't stay. It won't be absorbed to the paper. But this one, I'll show you a little bit of the new pastel. Recently, I think new pastel, I've been using it mostly for blending. Because, yeah, occasionally we do need to blend things. We can't just leave things exactly like what I have right now is very painterly. You know, especially for commissions, you can't do that. I'm going to define her nose. I'm just working in the detail of her beautiful feature here. I want to make sure it's captured. It's very beautiful. Now I'm looking at her nose. So I want to define this little plane here. It's not easy to use big sticks for such a small thing, but I try. A little highlight. So maybe a little highlight here. Okay. It's just constant adjustment of the value. No, yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
It's just I'm adjusting the light. A little pink here. Maybe that's too light. Okay, let me finish her chin. Okay. So I'm still looking at the big planes here. So the side of her chin that's facing the light, so I'm making it lighter. I know I jump around. So I realized we need to get this lighter over here by the ear because the light is hitting that area. I'm gonna leave the chin pretty much soft here. Yes. A little lighter. So there's this little bit of the thing on the ear that sticks out. That's indication where the bone missed the ear. And that's kind of important. I think I'm gonna put some lavender on her face. It goes well with her skin. some cooler tones, and also you see it goes well with the pink, adds a little contrast to the orange as well. I think playing with complementary colors is very important for a portrait, because the skin is never just orange or pink or beige. I want to add a little fun here. Yeah, I do the same approach for still life or landscape. It's the same idea. So what I'm using, basically, I'm seeing the stick in a value. So I know what value this is, so I'm not scared of putting this in places that's the correct value. Okay, I'm done with that. It's hard to explain what I'm doing. Make sure her smile looks good. That's, another thing about the mark on somebody's face. The smile is great, but it's not a hard edge. It should not be a hard edge because it's not a bone. It's just part of the very soft muscle. So we want to make sure it's soft enough so it looks like part of the cheek, not part of the bone. So a lot of times I see people like to make the eyeliners or the smile or the lip liners. I think that's just not good. I want to go back to her eyes. A little bit darker. Maybe some of those eggplant. Okay, I haven't done this eye. Let me put some things in this eye. So you look at it as a big shape. Again, the eye white, it's not white, it's dark blue. Now that's a little too light. I need something darker. Yeah, you want it, everything in the shadow should blend in. It should not be too harsh. But maybe a little bit harsher.
Yeah, that's better. I can see the reflection.
Yeah. Helpful to have the model commenting on it too. Not all the time, but.
Yeah, quite.
Let's see if we can add.
Pastel pencils for details?
Hardly. On the eyes, yes. To get the eye shape correctly, the middle of the eye, make sure it's correctly. I do the folding of the eye, especially here. It's easier. This is actually not dark enough. I prefer to use new pastel for details. It just covers better. The pastel pencil doesn't really cover the soft pastel that well, so I prefer to use more of the new pastel. Let's see, can get her eyelid here. I need to fix that part. Yeah, I want to add a little bit of that blue in there. Picking a blue. Maybe something from the new pastel. This could be fun. See, with new pastel, it blends better. Actually, I don't like this. Maybe something here. I'm just looking at your chin now. Oh, that's too blue. I think that's too light. Okay, how about purple? This works. That's more natural. Yeah, I do think purple tone goes really well with her skin color. Really complement her skin.
Do you ever do an underpainting?
Yeah, I do that for landscape painting sometimes.
With watercolor?
With gouache. I prefer gouache because it's opaque. I'm used to oil color, so I usually do layers on top of things. Sometimes I even layer gouache before I put pastel on there. So it looks so thick, like with layers of gouache and layers of pastel on the top. It has this like oil painting feel to it. So I really like that.
Does the gouache work on the Pastelmat? I've used it on sanded paper, but I haven't used
Oh, you have to try the gouache on the Pastelmat. I did a gouache, I don't know if you remember, I did a gouache of orange peel. I just saw some orange peel on the table, and I did it with gouache and figured I'm gonna put pastel on top of it. I couldn't stop doing the gouache. I was like, forget about pastel. This gouache works better on Pastelmat than pastel does. It absorbs so much gouache. It's just very odd.
I'll have to try that.
Except this Pastelmat is very expensive. I don't know if it's really worth it to do that.
So I'm still mourning the loss of Pearl Paint in New York, but.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, well,
I miss it.
Propane? You can't get propane?
No, propane's gonzo. So where do you often buy your supplies?
Oh, Blick's. Blick is like the new pearl paint, basically. So, Blick. Yeah, Blick is the store.
There's a store, plain. It used to be a new. It did used to be a new?
There's one in Norwalk. Oh, no, it's Jerry's. Jerry's in Norwalk.
Yeah. Or hard.
It's hard to find it. I've been to one, but that's still a big drive for.
It is, and I think their prices are higher than Jerry's.
For pastels, there's a place in, it's either Washington or Oregon called Dakota Pastels. They had everything pastel.
You mean like Washington, Connecticut?
No, Washington State, you have to order stuff, but they have everything pastel.
Oh, let me work on her lip. I forgot about her lips.
And just looking at things, you're inspired by just seeing your materials.
The good thing about using big stick of soft pastel is that it forces you not to pay attention to detail, because you can't. So, purple. She has a beautiful smile.
Oh, I wonder if it's the Henri Roche.
I'm gonna try the blue. Let's try the blue.
And that's blue?
It's kind of blue teal. Yeah. One thing, like, you know, we have the eye connecting to the edge here. We want to make sure it's soft, is round, so we don't have a hard edge here. The only hard edge here should be the eyebrow. That's a bone, so we want to make sure that's defined. This is where the eyebrow ends. Everybody has a different shape of eyebrow. Like some are more sticking out, some are flatter. So that's how you define likeness, by where the bone goes. And the cheekbone, obviously, this is the important part to be sharp. And the rest of them should really just blend in. The cheek itself is just, you know, it's not a bone, so. So the push and pull of the edges of the portrait painting is very important. I want to get this light here, this little Rembrandt light. It's very pretty. So I'm using my finger here because I don't know what else to do. I just want to blend it a little bit. Yeah, it's dramatic. So, and this teal I chose actually blends into the shadow really well. And then the reason I want to add this color here, because I want to draw out her hair, the really playful hair hanging on her side. I think, you know, I rather do things the oppositely. Like I don't draw the hair, I do negative space. That's how, you know, this looks more natural to me. It looks more like hair. If you draw like hair, like one another, it just doesn't look natural. So this you can see as this Rembrandt lighting we have here. It's very clear where the shadow is and where the light is, even with the application of the background. Even though it's a teal, it's dark enough. It fits into the background really well. So the only thing sticking out is the front part of her face, and that's what you want to do with a portrait, is to emphasize the face. I mean, they're not asking you to paint the background, so it's more about the face. Let me try a little color on the right side, just to be sure. A little lighter, a little darker. So you can go in and change it. A little. Yeah, I do like to get her shoulder out a little bit more. Another thing I want to show you is the application of the background is actually really fun. I'm going to show you something fun. Here's pink. Yeah, you can blend it like this. You can do a little blue on top of it. It kind of has a nice, it's like an atmosphere, you know, like what's around her. She could be like sitting in front of a garden, or she could be sitting in front of a pool. See, I see subtle colors on there. So for a background, you can make it as abstract as you want it to be. It's pretty. Yeah, I like that.
I'm seeing something that you're not, but her, the hair she has on the right side of her face. at least from my angle, it looks like it's quite light.
Which side? This side?
Is that her right side?
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a little highlight to it.
Oh, okay.
But you need to keep in mind, this is in the shadow. That part of the hair is in the shadow. The light comes, yeah, so I purposely do not want to make it light because it's in the shadow. It's a you know, as an artist, you can make your own decisions, even though sometimes what you see is not exactly correct, so you can.
It's 20 minutes, but you have only 5 minutes to go till the end. Keep going. Okay.
Okay. Oh, it's 20 minutes right now?
Yeah. It's fine.
No, you can take a break.
No, it's fine. You keep going.
Oh, such a good model. That's about how light it will go.
Okay, I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the fun part. You know, we can do some hair even though we're not really at this stage. But you want to make sure the hair is defined here. So we have the edge. Hair, again, is something that should be looked at as big shape instead of strands, different strands of hair. Because if you get really into the different strands of the hair, you lose the overall shape. So in this case, the hair is facing the light on her right side, right? So so you want to make sure the hair on the side a little lighter than the hair on the other side. But not exactly, because they have a shape too, they have to define. So also it should, you know, fade into the background. It should not be hard lines. See, here I have a little purple to it. Maybe a little blue. It really doesn't matter what color you use as long as it's the correct value. So my goal is just to make her face look three-dimensional. Here's a little shadow. A little shirt here. How much time did you say we have?
You've got like 5 minutes.
Okay, good. I think I see a little purple. I know I have a crazy looking painting with colors, but it's fun. A lot of yellow. I'll just take another photo of her at the end of the 5 minutes, and so I can finish it up. Just don't move yet. That's the alarm? Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, I guess not.
So that's it? Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming.